bhavatu sahanau bhunaktu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, let's chant this verse, your third verse. Let's chant that and just remind ourselves where we were, and we can all do it together. Kate's going to say we can, but the third verse on your sheet of paper, okay? Pajahati yada kaman sarvam patamano atmanyevatmana tushtaha stita prajnastadochyate. I like that. Hari Aim. Hari Aim. Om. Okay. Welcome. Okay, so yesterday we'll do a little bit of review. Just because review is always good, right? Makes one think one's prepared for the test. What test? You didn't mention a test yesterday. What are you talking about? No, there's no test really. Just oh, there was some looks here though. And I can't see all your faces online. Swamini Ji was joking yesterday with people, all the people who have been taking Sanskrit classes. She was saying, because I was apparently pulling a face, Janani was pulling a face yesterday. Janani wasn't pulling a face. There was a face being pulled on this body-mind-sense complex yesterday when Swamini Ji said about the Sanskrit classes, which are starting tomorrow afternoon. Vidya will not be here. Beginning tomorrow, and so on Fridays and Saturdays, I believe it's a 2:30 till 3:30 Sanskrit class. Yes, with Janani. So then Swamini Ji joked about you'd all be getting a test. So, and you know, I haven't come up with a test yet. Okay, just so you can all relax, you can all get a good night's sleep, not worrying about being tested on Sanskrit. Okay. So we'll, I don't know what we're going to do yet, because I actually didn't realize, yes, it's Sanskrit too, and I didn't realize it had come around quite so quickly. So anyway, we'll have fun. We don't know what we'll do, but we'll have fun. We will all be tushtaha, okay, by the end of it. You just did the number one. Oh, you're off the hook then, James. Especially as it's going to be even later for you, because it's going to be running from 2:30 until 3:30, I believe. And the voice is still on the way out. It was on the way out during chanting last night, and now as I start talking again here, we'll see if we can keep it going. So what did we talk about yesterday? We talked about happiness, and what is this happiness? What did we decide? We decided that happiness was the non-demanding mind, if you remember that. And we talked about, you know, well, you may not have got it quite so succinctly. What we actually did was we talked about what the demanding mind was. And the demanding mind is that mind which is full of desires. And what kind of desires? There was two kinds of desires, and it was full of the non-binding desires, right? Is that the one that's the... No. Binding desires, that's the one that's not happy. Okay, we're all awake so far, that's good. So, the thought suddenly came, it's not Friday today, is it? Sanskrit's not right after this class, and I haven't messed up, you know, by telling, another announcement, just in case you were here yesterday, and we did confirm once again that the clocks do not go forward this coming weekend, okay? So if you were here in class for part of class yesterday, heard Janani talking about the clocks jumping forward this weekend, that's not true, okay? So that all of that, where did all of that come from? We started off talking about the binding desires are the cause of this unhappiness. And why do we have these binding desires? We're going to ask questions in different ways just to make sure that we're all familiar with what's going on here. Why do we have these binding desires in the first place? What's our thought pattern about this? We think we're going to get happiness, right? That's what we're all seeking. So we're all seekers. Everyone's a seeker. And whether we know it or not, what we're seeking is happiness. And we seek happiness in the most strange of places. And when we say strange of places, for one person it makes perfect sense. One person might seek happiness through skydiving. There are others of us who may say, skydiving? The fear of heights is something to be got over before one gets up in the plane and then stands with their... I've never done this. This ahankara will fall into that category of not going to jump out of that hole in the plane. But the imagination is that there's a large door thing that opens up, and then people jump out of that. How they open this thing without everybody just getting sucked out, like you see in all the movies, whenever there's a hole comes in the aeroplane and everything gets sucked out of that hole, we don't know. But people apparently have time to think about, okay, we have to now have our hand on this cord to pull. So, and some people get happiness from this. Now, again, this happiness, I don't know whether it's the adrenaline rush, whether it's actual happiness, experiential happiness, or whether it's the being scared so much that there's no room for any of the critical thoughts, self-critical thoughts to come into the mind. Although I think there would be plenty of room for some of us for that critical thought. How did you land yourself in this one? What on earth are you thinking? And if you don't jump, then what are people going to say? And all that money has been spent getting you up here in the first place. And if you do jump, what if you don't remember to pull that cord? We need to have a binding relationship with that cord. That's a good thing. when skydiving is in order, a binding relationship with that cord, and also the parachute that comes out. So we do seek this happiness in all kinds of different ways, through experience. Other ways that we seek it are through pumping up the more subtle level ahankara. What's the more subtle level ahankara? I have this degree, I have that degree, I have this guru. Swamini often talks about the guru shoppers, and about there was one particular situation where someone actually came here to Eugene and was talking to Swamini and asking her to be if she would be his guru. And she looked and said, well, she asked him questions about Vedanta and his exposure. Oh, I've been to this person and this person's my guru, and that person's my guru, and this person. So this is another way that we, as those, seek happiness, is by pumping up this more subtle sense of I don't know that it's subtle necessarily, not in the way that we usually talk about subtle, but at a more, not an object in a material object, so to speak. So we're the spiritual ego, yes. The spiritual ego is getting pumped up. So that's another way that we might seek this happiness. We're all the time the infinite seekers. Why? Because we're we're infinite seekers because we're seeking the finite, the infinite in finite things. It'll all come right eventually. That's one thing about teaching, is that eventually everything gets itself right and round the right way and comes out through the mouth with the guru's blessing, with the lineage blessing. So we're all seeking this happiness. We're seeking it in very strange places sometimes. Other people, forget skydiving, there are people who, splunkers. Have you heard of this term, splunkers? Spelunkers. Splunkers. No wonder it sounded stranger still. Spelunkers. they go into the caves. So instead of going up in Akasha, up into the sky, they are going down into Prithvi. They're going in underground. So I don't, I've never, it might be interesting, a total distraction, but interesting thought is, I wonder if the same people who go underground also like to go up in the air, or whether it's, one or the other that we have our desire to. Is one attached to the earth, or does one like to be up in Akasha? We don't know. If anybody cares to do a survey on that, it could be just a piece of trivia. It could be a great Trivial Pursuit question, okay? Do those people who like to be in the air also like to go underground? So these are strange, strange ways that we go ahead and try and find this happiness. But all of them, as we talked about, are going to end up with what? The change. It's going to be temporary. That's right. So this finite nature of the experiential happiness turns out not to be what we're looking for. It's very addictive, though. Very, very addictive. And why is it so addictive? It's maybe the more that we have a difficult time being with ourselves, the more we are attracted to and attached to these various things. And also it's just how we've been taught. So there's no finger pointing here saying, oh, I can't believe you go off and do this. There's no finger pointing at all. This is what we've been taught, that this is how happiness is going to come to us. But we also decided yesterday that when we actually get to connect with that object, that finite object, we also decided that that itself is not the cause of the happiness. It takes many things in order for us to be happy when we come into contact with the object. And the example for this we talked about yesterday, the Faluda. It might have been the day before, who knows, or the week before, but the Faluda, that happiness was there, but then as the realization sunk in that for every experience of having the taste of that Faluda, the Faluda itself sunk down in the glass. And so immediately the fear, oh no, that deprivation again, there's never enough, there's not going to be enough. So we often do mistake that this fulfilled desire is what causes happiness. But it's not, as we saw yesterday, it's not the fulfillment of the desire that causes happiness. Another thing that we didn't look at yesterday, James is saying we can't have our cake and eat it too. I think that came out of, that's originated with Marie Antoinette, I think. Something back in history. We'll have to find the origin of that statement, but no Googling now, okay? So what we didn't talk about yesterday is that not only does that connection, we can't get that happiness doesn't come from that connection, but there is no actual place, time, specific place or time or object that is labeled as happiness. So even though we're all going after this thing called happiness, there is no, the closest that comes to it is probably this idea of swarga, right? Heaven, what we call swarga in our teaching, but heaven. And how many people do we know who think, oh, swarga, yes, that's what we want? And how many people actually say if they go on holiday, go to a nice warm place with palm trees and you can sit on the beach with your tall glass of something with a umbrella in the drink, and you can have there with the bendy straw. Why do they always put bendy straws in those drinks too? It's a great thing for kids, but the drinks are usually not child friendly. So anyway, with the bendy straw in it and the blue ocean, and you have to kind of ignore the million other people on the beach. And so this sorry, I'm just reading this note from Chris. Sorry, Chris. Let me see if we can place the mic a little closer to the amplifier. It's actually a different mic, not the one attached to me. I think it's this one here. Oh, look at me. Oh. Now nobody has any eardrums left, banging all these banging all these things around. And let me put this a little closer. So hopefully that will help a little bit, Chris. Sometimes it gets muffled. Okay, it's all clear and audible. Good. So what were we talking about? We were talking about sitting on the beach in some warm place and with our little drink. And it's not the place, it's not the time, and it's not even the experience that is the happiness. We can't say, because sitting on the beach somewhere hot may not appeal to everybody. Again, it's that idea. So there's no real happiness place that can be obtained or attained. And so this swaga, this heaven, this idea of heaven, if we follow that through for even 30 seconds or a minute, just to indulge ourselves, we'll follow through for a minute with it. So one gets to heaven. Who's getting to heaven? The one with this mind, right? Or this mind, this querulous, complaining, nothing's right mind. So we get to heaven, and everything's going to be perfect in heaven. There's going to be, I'm not going to, food won't be an issue. I'll have a place to stay. God is going to be right there, taking care of my every need and my every whim. And I'm going to be looking around, everything's fine. And I'm thinking, wow, look at this beautiful house I'm in. This is so gorgeous, nice little river running by at the end of the property, and it's not polluted. This is heaven after all. We don't have to deal with pollution, no environmental concerns. And I look out of the window and I think, oh, so nice that the next property is far away. Wow, that's quite a big house over there. Oh, wow, wonder who lives there. And, a couple of days go past, and then one day I look out and see who lives there. And guess what? It was that boss that was there on that planet Earth. And when I was going through that last incarnation on that planet called Earth, and it was that boss. Which boss? The boss who would never promote me, who was always rude, who just didn't have a good word to say about anybody or anything. And this boss is in heaven and in this big, big house. And suddenly, just like that, gone. Heaven is gone. Why? That querulous mind back in. How did that person get here? And not only how did they get here, but how did they end up in that particular house that's bigger than the house? I was the one who was always working hard, trying to do good for the company, trying to do good for the clients. And what did he do? He just sat around eating Twinkies all day. It was an American boss, okay? He just was eating his Twinkies and yo-yos. I think there's something called no, not yo-yos. What are they?
Snack, yo-yo.
Oh, there is a snack called yo-yo. Education coming out here. I've never had a Twinkie or a yo-yo, okay? I've lived in the States for many, many years, but I've never had a yo-yo or a Twinkie. I just happen to be aware of these names. So, who used to just sit around eating yo-yos and Twinkies? What is this person doing? Like I say, the whole peace of mind gone. So, this happiness is not something that we all go for the same thing. It's not a place. It's not in time. So, this is how, going through all of this yesterday, we arrived at the fact that it had to be something which was based on us, and that being based on us had to do with the mind. But it's not the mind that gives us happiness, and that we were going to spend a little more time talking about today. So the mind cannot be the cause of happiness. But wait a minute, it's the mind that reports to me that I'm happy. And there's the clue right there. It's the mind that reports to me that I'm happy. Reports, first of all, we have to say, the mind is reporting. So what does that tell? There's something that objectifies that mind. Well, okay, there's something objectifying it, but why does that mean that it's not the mind that's making me happy? What is one's true nature? One has to keep coming back to this question. What is the true nature of I? And we know this from, we're going to see this actually in the very next verse we're going to be talking. It is limitless, it is consciousness, limitlessness, and all knowledge, right? So this is the basic nature of I. Which I? Not the I that's identified with the body, the mind, the senses. This is the I that is upholding this body-mind-sense complex. So anything that is objectified, like our mind, whose mind? Our mind? Our joint mind? Thank goodness we don't have a joint mind, as Swamini would say. We have enough problems just having our own minds and dealing with that. But anything that can be objectified is subject to change, and therefore it is not going to be the source of that infinite happiness that we're all looking for. So, okay, what do you mean the mind changes? No, it's not changing, it's just reporting all things that are changing. Well, in order to report those things, okay, and this mind is a highly calibrated instrument. It's not you know, you have these clocks which are, now the words have lost me. They run, you don't ever have to wind them, but they run on just the gravitational, there's a piece in them that swings or rotates around and round, and I can't remember the name of them. My father was very fascinated by these clocks, that's how I know about them. And so it's not, it's even more finely tuned than this particular clock that never needs winding. It's a highly calibrated piece of equipment, very sensitive. You can't move them. If you move it, then yes, you do have to restart the thing. But it's very, very sensitive, keeps very good time, but our mind is even more subtle, more attuned, more flexible, more everything than that, okay? So the mind is actually subject to a lot of change. It is the place where one can observe the emotions, and if the emotions were one thing that didn't change, none of us would be sitting here, because if one's true nature is happiness, and we all knew that, and that's what was being reported all the time, you are happy, we would not be sitting here, okay? So the mind is a highly facile piece of equipment. It's definitely not stationary. But we know that there is something that is stationary. And how do we know that? This is which example do we use for this one? This is just not for a test or anything, just to see. Does anybody remember the sample we used for that? There's several ones. We use them in the modern day world. One's not coming. How do we know that something is stationary? There has to be something moving, right? And the example we use is like the traditional one that gets used all the time is in India. You know, you often find yourself sitting on a train if you're going somewhere. Oh, that's another one. Yeah, but this one is about, you know, you're sitting on the train and suddenly you start moving, or you think you start moving. And in fact, you're not even really sure who's moving. The train, as you're looking out of the window, appears to be moving. So is it you moving or the train out of the window? And the way that the train, that's right, the train. So the way you find out is either you will see the front end of the train or the back end of the train disappearing, right, at some point if you look long enough. So that's the one where you know that to see movement, there has to be something still. And why, carrying on with our train example? Because if the two trains are going alongside each other, there can still be movement, but one is not aware that there is movement going on. So we know then that if this mind is reporting all different things, there is this witness which has to be stable. There has to be something that is just constantly there lighting up this mind, and that has to be a stable thing. The Sakshi, yes, that's what we call it, the witness. See, it all goes round. I told you, every class, everything will come. It's the station master observing all the activity. Yes, that's another one. But of course, the station master, of course, is moving. Can be moving themselves. But yes, that's another one that can be used. You see that it's all this train, all these trains. Another one we use nowadays is the airplane. I don't know how many. This is particularly relevant for you right now, Kate. But how many of you have sat in the plane and thought that the plane was moving when they're taking away that connection bridge? And it looks for all, and you can't tell, is the plane moving or is the connection bridge moving? So the piece that you walk through to get onto the plane, and that's always, anyway, comes to this mind, whenever that's observed, it's like, okay, what's moving here? And it's really very difficult to tell in a plane. Probably more so than on a train. So this mind is not the one that's going to bring the happiness. The senses are not the ones that are going to bring the happiness. As we know, we just have to take the tongue. And that's the reason that the restaurant industry keeps going. Imagine there would be no restaurant industry if one piece of food went in and tasted good, and that taste, that sensory perception would stay there, indefinitely. It would take away quite a bit of the restaurant industry. It would also, no, we won't go there. We won't even go there. We won't even say what we were going to go to, okay? So what about money? Is money the cause of happiness? This was one we didn't touch on yesterday, but it's worth looking into because this is something that many of us think. It's a lot of confusion. There's nothing wrong with money, as Puja Swamiji used to tell us. Absolutely nothing wrong with money. Nothing wrong with wanting money. Just don't let it be a binding desire that's going to push one into going against dharma, okay? So money can definitely make you comfortable. And it's a good thing to be comfortable. There's nothing wrong with wanting that comfort and being comfortable. But it can't make you happy. Why can't it make you happy? Okay, I'm comfortable here, but suddenly there's, if you go over to England, there's a little island in the middle of the Irish Sea called the Isle of Man. This place is not a place to visit in the wintertime. Why? Because one gets over onto this island and then bad weather will inhibit your ability to leave this island, okay? Now, you can't get off of it by boat and you can't get off of it by plane. All the planes that go over there are fairly small, and so when the gale force winds are up, there's no plane taking off or landing. And also, of course, if the gale force winds are up, the boats, they don't send these ferries over the piece of ocean. It's about 70 miles of ocean. And so that's great. I'm over on this island. It's a tax-free haven, apparently. So apparently people with money go and retire there. Well, people in the UK go and retire there. And you go over there, you're sitting there with all your pots of money, and then a week long of gales, rain, goodness knows what else comes. And very quickly, every shop on the island, all of the stores, they will be emptied. There'll be no food, no bread, no milk, no basics at all on the shelves. They do have some local produce, but the growing season is very, very short. So vegetables, definitely not. So if you're a vegetarian, definitely do not spend time on the island in the middle of winter. How is all this known? This is Janani did it this winter, and exactly this happened. So don't spend time over there unless one wants to go on a diet, not by choice, but through through circumstance. Because guess what? That money, that credit card that's sitting there in the pocket, saying spend me, use me, whatever. I didn't try it, but doesn't taste very good, and I'm sure that it's not very nutritious. Not to mention, what would one have to do to sanitize this after it's passed through so many hands before one puts it in one's body? So the nutrition value of money is not very high. Okay, so money has its uses. It's not to down it completely, but it's not going to bring happiness. And so why is it that this connection with something such as money, such as going skydiving, such as having a faluda, why is it that is not going to bring about happiness? Why is it that is not the cure of our happiness? Why are we talking about this? We have to go all the way back to the beginning. What is the fundamental problem? And the fundamental problem is that there is a sense of lack. So it doesn't matter how much money there is, how many faludals are like, faludals? Faludals, there's a new word, okay? Faludals, we like it. It's a cross between a faluda and a poodle or something else, or noodle, better. A faluda and a noodle. So a line of faludas along the counter. It doesn't matter if one has all the green vegetables, fresh green organic vegetables in the world sitting in front of one. If this sense of inadequacy is not addressed, one is not going to have this sense, this happiness that one is seeking for, this ongoing happiness. There's always going to be something, as we saw, even in heaven, to complain about, okay? So what we want to become is the seeker of the infinite, as Swamini Ji says. And this, a mistake that we make about this, especially coming to Vedanta classes, and I think Swamini Ji addressed this night before last, is that we get very, it's like, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do everything, and we become very serious. We become serious seekers, and so we get very serious, and we're learning, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and we're trying to get these words, and we're trying to understand this, and we're getting all of this information. And then what? Our usual way of going about things is to gather information and then do something with it, right? So this, of course, is our classic example about the recipe. So we all would love to have a piece of cake. I think most people, we can say, it doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is, a piece of cake, that sounds really quite good. Everybody's nodding here, so even in Eugene, everybody can go along with it. For some of us, of course, egg-free given. It has to be an egg-free cake, absolutely given, okay? For some of us, it has to be without sugar too. There are other ways, other things we can sweeten it with, that's okay. For some of us, it has to be without gluten. Okay, that's all right too. For some of us, it has to be, if it's gluten-free, often comes along potato starch, so it has to be without potato starch in it. So all of these things can be accommodated in this cake. So we're going to bake a cake. So what do? We get the recipe, the gluten-free, egg-free, dairy-free, sugar-free cookbook. If somebody finds such a thing, let me know, okay? It would be kind of fun to see. I don't know about what it would taste like, but let's be interesting to see what they do put in it. So all of these things are this cookbook will take into consideration all these wants and needs of the particular body that this cake is going to go into, and it lays out all the ingredients, okay? So we have all of the ingredients there. So one makes the shopping list. We sit and we think, oh yes, that's in the cupboard, don't need to get that, but do need to get this. Yep, okay, understand that. Oh, I have to look up this one, don't know what this ingredient is because we've cut out so many normal ingredients. We have to put in some things that are not normally there, don't even know what they are. Google is our friend, so we will have a look and see what that is. And so all of this information we gather, then we go to the market, we gather all the pieces, we've got everything sitting there on the counter, and then we just look at all these pieces on the counter. We look longingly at the picture in the cookbook. They have the nice pictures in good cookbooks. They have the nice pictures of the food. I don't know whether it's helpful or not, because the food that gets cooked by you never looks like the picture. But it's there, sitting there, and we're just, okay, all right. What now? Everything's there. All the information is there. All the ingredients are there. Is the cake there? No. And do we tear out the picture of the cake and eat that and, expect it to taste anything? It may, given our parameters for the ingredients, it may taste similar. That maybe not. Do we sit there and just, not do anything with these ingredients? No, we do something with it. That's supposedly going to be the thing that's going to bring about the fulfillment of our desire. Although sometimes what comes out of the oven definitely does not bring about the fulfillment. In fact, it may bring about quite a bit of nivritti, right? Keep that back from me. And then the birds, the birds, you think, oh, lucky birds, they're going to cash in on this, and then you wonder, I think I'll be able to take off after they've eaten this. But out it goes to the birds anyway, and they obligingly help out. Either that or the raccoons come that night and eat it up. Or whatever local creatures one has that come out at night. So that gathering everything together, collecting everything together, making sure everything's in place, there's this idea that something then has to be done. Is that the case with Vedanta? And we all know that's a big resounding no. That's not the case. Why? Because what's being talked about, what is the very content of the Shruti, the very words that are coming out of those who are sharing the knowledge, those who are teaching the knowledge, it is nothing but the truth of oneself. And so it's not that you're going to become yourself. How can you become yourself? You already are yourself. And if you're not already yourself, how can there be something that's infinite? It's not possible. So we have to, all of these questions have to keep coming around. This is all good contemplation, just watching the brain follow it around, because any time the mind is going to try and convince you that no, you're finite. This is finite, and this is why it's finite. So these are all things that have to be kept in mind. So this isn't an experience that we're seeking. This is the truth of what is. And when there's no second thing, okay, so I'm gathering all this information, there's no second thing, so how is there going to be any change? We can't exactly cook up the Atma. We talked about this. We can't burn it. That's a good thing when we're talking about cooking, right? We can't burn it, but neither can we cook it up, nor can we drown it. We can't put too much water into the recipe of oneself, Atma, and glub, 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 down it goes. So we can't do that. And nor can we measure up. This is the cutting, okay? The cutting. We can't cut it, destroy it by a weapon. So we can't measure it out and break it up into bits and make it. None of this is possible. So we have to follow the whole way through and see that all the time we've got to be coming back, that there is nothing here but the truth of oneself, okay? So there's two thoughts. We talked about this yesterday. We touched on this yesterday. There are two thoughts that come that cause one to miss one's nature. And what are those two thoughts? This is a mini test. It's this time of the day when we're all getting really kind of like, yeah, the cake sounds nice, piece of cake, nice afternoon nap, that would be good. Here in Eugene at least, I know in other parts of the world it's not that. So what are the two thoughts that cause us to miss the nature? We talked about this yesterday. Anybody? We want something to be different, right? And that you are a seeker and there's something that is being sought. So these are the two things that will quickly, these two thoughts, and they're wearing all sorts of, they put on all sorts of sparkly jackets. You know, this isn't the jacket of Maya, okay, on Bhagavan, on Ishvara. This is the sparkly jackets that are all there on this road, this pravritti road, which often takes one off of the, will lure one away from the road of studying Vedanta, which at the beginning of the road looks like a rather boring, plain, nothing there road, while the one with all the objects, the pravritti objects, you know, is all looking very sparkly and shiny, and oh, let's go down there. So this thought that there is something there to be got that's going to, you know, make one happy. This is one of the thoughts that will take one off. And like I say, they just get all these different clothes, all these attractive, you know, it may be in the form of an object, it may be in the form of, if only this boss weren't here, and this person was the boss. All of these things are going to be calling out. So what is calling out to us all? Let's look about what this manifestation is. So the manifestation, everything here is given. No, it's not given. I'm the one who's going into the office every day, and I'm the one who's putting in the time, and then I'm the one who takes the check that they give me. Measly little check, not enough, definitely underpaid and overworked. Measly little check. I'm the one who's then taking it down to the bank. I'm the one who's getting the money. I'm the one who has to go to the store or sit online. These days you can sit online, right? You don't even have to go to the store. You can just sit online and order away. I'm the one who has to do that. I'm the one who has to risk the credit card. Me, the whole way. No, what do you mean everything is given? I'm the one doing. And this is our lovely story about the the insufferable parent who tells his children, you have it made. You do not know what hardship is. And this is as the children are complaining and saying that, you know, the light is not bright enough and they need a brighter light bulb so that they can do their homework. You don't know. You have no clue. When I was a youth, I didn't even have a place where I could study. You know where I had to do my homework? I had to do my homework under a street light. And you know what's more? I didn't even have a warm jacket under that street light. Now, forget the fact that he lived in Nagpur, you know, and it's very hot in Nagpur. It can be wet as well, but he lived in Nagpur, okay? So I didn't have a warm jacket. I didn't have a light in my house. And what else? I had to go and beg for a pencil in order to write. Yeah, that's right, exactly. The elders would say, and I had no shoes. Somebody's writing, I had no shoes with which to walk. And so the children are sitting there listening to this, and they're going, oh, okay. And they're kind of doing what we all do at about this time of day, and that's the eyes are kind of rolling back in the head. It's like, oh, here we go again. There's these glances, you know, like, oh, God, do we have to really listen to this story one more time? And so they're looking at each other. Father's on a complete roll now. And do you know, I had 2 shirts to my name. One was on my back, the other one was on the bushes drying. Yes, on the bushes. We didn't even have a clothesline to hang anything on. We didn't even have a piece of string to hang up and put our clothes on. I had to hang my shirt up on the bushes. So at this point, if the children had been to Vedanta classes, they would have turned around and said, but Dad, who was it who gave the street light? Where did the street light come from? And Dad, you know those 2 shirts? Where did those come from? Who was it who gave you those 2 shirts? We left out one piece of the story in which Dad had also said, you know, I work so hard to provide for you children, and look what I've bought for you all. So all of this now comes back on Dad. And that pencil that somebody gave you, who gave, you know, somebody actually gave you a pencil? Wow, that's so nice. And that was a stranger. That wasn't even somebody, you know, in the family who gave you the pencil. How nice of that. And then to go about the shoes, who gave you the feet on which you are walking, to take it all the way back. And so this idea that I am the one who is gaining everything, getting everything, we can easily poke some holes in. So we have to look then, this world, this manifestation, it's already there. It's not something that I create, as we've just seen in our little story. It isn't something that I create. The creation is already there. It's already manifest. And the mind is part of, or is, that also manifest. So this is something to be noted. We appreciate, not only do we appreciate this manifestation through the mind, but the mind itself is part of this manifestation. So the mind is something that is given to us. So with that mind being given to us, some little friend flying. With that mind being given to us, we have to ask, what is that mind being given for? And we understand that the mind and the senses have been given to allow us to transact in this world and to understand this world. And also for what? To ask the question, who am I? What is this all about? And to follow up on that. But let's come back to our manifestation right now and this mind. So how is it that this mind makes sense of the world? It's because everything, there is an order to everything. So everything is in keeping with some order. And we see this with gravity. And one of the fun things to think about is if there were no gravity, or there was no order of gravity and it just appeared in pockets, that would be even more fun, I think. If there were no gravity at all, everything would be floating. It would be just like this, when we see these pictures of people on the moon, landing on the moon, and the one step, and then it kind of bounces up, and and it's always in slow motion. Whether it's like that or not, we don't know, but it's always in slow motion when we see it. And so there would be, this bouncing. Or if we walked along and then suddenly there was a pocket where the gravity was at a different level, and so suddenly one either rapidly put on 20 pounds, because it's gravity that actually causes the weight, what weight one is, or how the weighing machines work. One suddenly put on 20 pounds, or suddenly lost 20 pounds and was like walking above the earth. So there's all of these orders, and this mind is what helps us understand all of these orders. And there's predictability in this, which is very much needed for us to transact around this world. If we didn't have any predictability, it would make for some very strange, like we just saw with the walking along, make for some very strange situations. You know, it would be, you would go to cook this cake that we were just cooking. You would go to cook the cake and you'd find today the stove has decided, no, I'm going to be like a refrigerator today, forget you. And so you put the cake in, you know, you turn everything on, you go away, 45 minutes later you come back and there's cake batter that's happily started to freeze in the pan in the oven. And so you think, well, okay, it started to freeze, so I might just as well, why don't we just make it into this, you know, of course we don't eat eggs, so it's no problem. Let's make this into one of these like frozen ice cream things. Like over here we get all this ice cream which has bits in it, like cookie dough ice cream, you know, so it's okay to eat this full stuff. So I'm going to put this cake into the freezer and I'm going to just freeze it up completely and then we'll try it. You put it in the freezer, you leave it there overnight, you open the freezer the next day and there's this crispy, burnt little black spot in the bottom of the pan. You know, no, thank goodness there's an order. If you put something, you know, and that order carries through to what gets made by human beings too. You put something in the oven, it's going to cook so long as you turn it on and the electricity is running. You put something into the freezer and hopefully it's going to freeze, it's not going to cook. So we have order here, which makes, the mind helps us in understanding those and makes it easy for us to transact in the world. And we don't know these orders. When we first, you know, at birth, we definitely don't know these orders. You know, we see children, it's so lovely to watch them exploring the world. And they will happily, the balloon example, they get a balloon and the adult, depending on whether the adult is, you know, how attached the adult is to the child, the child's got the balloon, they're hugging that balloon and they're banging it, and then they pick up a rock and you're thinking, if you do that, there's going to be one almighty bang and there's probably going to be some tears after that. But the child doesn't know. They just think, wow, this is fun. I can hug this thing, I can bang it, I can biff it and bang it, and now I'm going to try with this rock. And of course, bang. So the child learns a lesson in order and also probably sheds a few tears because the play toy has disappeared. Not only has it disappeared, but it made it's going out, it's leaving, it's a beginning absence. We'll study that in Gita sometime. It's beginning of absence. It made it very well known. It went out with a loud bang. So we learn about this order as we go through life. But does that mean that I am the creator of this order? And what we can say is that if you are the sole author of this world, of anything, then you can claim some sort of ownership over it. But if you are not the creator of it, then you can't claim any ownership over it. And so, you know, this we see this hilariously in many things coming out of, or some things that have come out of India. There are people, especially in the West, who would love to patent various things that have come out of India. And we can take our Monsanto, for instance. I think if they could, they would have patented the mustard seed. Okay, so are they the author of the mustard seed? No, they are not the author of the mustard seed. Would they like to be the author of the mustard seed? Oh, of course they would like to be the author. Better than being the author of the mustard seed, because why should I spend my time? I'm just going to take that seed and say, nobody else can have that seed. And I'm actually going to genetically modify it now, and so that nobody can get seeds from when we grow our mustard plants anymore. So it's very funny to see how we as humans do try and patent various things. Yoga is another one, where we have tried to patent yoga here in the West. You know, it's like we come up with fancy names and say it's this and it's that, and you know, this is my creation. So that's another one where we try and take ownership. We don't even have to go that far. We can just talk about, what about the house? Okay, all right, so who owns the house besides the bank, okay? You know, there's a piece of paper with your name on it that says you own the house. But let's see what you own, okay? So, and we'll say, just for art, you know, just to make it a little better example, that you've paid the mortgage, there's no mortgage, that's the word, okay. There's no mortgage on it. So remember, if for you to have ownership of something, you have to be the author of that. Did you build the house? Even if you built the house, were you the one who planed all of the wood that becomes the studs? Or made the bricks that become the bricks, depending on where you live in the world? You're either in a wooden built stick frame house or a brick frame house. So are you the one who did that? What about this piece of land that the house is sitting on? Did you create that piece of land? Well, yes, I did all the site preparation myself. I dug the foundation, you know, I dug down. I dug a big deep hole, then I filled it up with gravel, I pounded all of that down, and then we put down the, we poured the cement foundation. That's the words, not all the words for it are coming. We poured that cement foundation, and you know, generally speaking, it's not you who did all of this. It's a team of workers who did all of this. But what about the concrete? Do you own that concrete? Who made that concrete? So we can't really claim any authorship or any ownership over any of this. And what about the physical body? There's the real one. Who is it? We love to claim ownership over this physical body. And I'm afraid there's some news for you, and you may have heard this before, but we really don't have any ownership over this physical body. Who lays claim to this body? Well, first of all, mother, right? You know, that's my child. I'm the one who created this. You know, if you ask any mother, well, how exactly did you create this? Well, I had some help from father. So how did the two of you really create this? Did you make the skin? Did you make the the liver, the heart, the brain, the eyes? Would you know how to do that? No, you wouldn't know how to do that. But still, there's this claim. So, the parents are the first ones who lay claim. Siblings, they lay claim. They lay claim to the body. And then as you grow up, spouses, significant others, they lay claim to the body. Employers, they lay claim. What do you mean employers lay claim to my body? My employer doesn't lay claim to my body. Yeah, if you're not there, they notice you're not there, and they want to know why it is that you weren't there at work today when this important order came in. So many people laying claim to the body. So we can't really say that even this body is owned by one, and we can say that yes, the karma, it is one's own karma that generated this particular body, but we cannot say that we have a complete ownership over this body. So what about knowledge? We can all spend tonight thinking about whether or not we have any ownership over knowledge, okay? So that's your homework. Even the digestive system has its own elegance and intelligence. Yes, and we'll tell a funny story about the digestive system. Don't ever say that the digestive system is Bhagavan to Muslim, okay? It's very, it can be quite, they take it quite, I shouldn't say don't ever say it, but for them that's really the depths of, the worst place that you can possibly go, okay? So here, your homework for tonight, not that we ever have homework in our classes, but just for fun, you can think about do I have any ownership over knowledge, okay? And we'll pick up with that tomorrow. We're going to end a little early because it's a very sleepy day today, okay? So, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yes, all the systems in the body are indeed